Internationalism. The whole world comes first. This quote from Baba Avakian is simple and basic, but it is radically different from how most people think and act, especially in this parasitic imperialist country that exploits and feasts on the rest of the world. Just think about it. How many people aren't even paying attention to the rest of the world, while they dress themselves in clothes made in Bangladeshi sweatshops and play around on smartphones which couldn't exist without child labor in the Congo? How many Americans don't even know where countries like Yemen are, a country that their government has been starving and destroying? The point is not to stop wearing clothes and become a geography expert, but what are you thinking about? And who are you thinking about? Are you really thinking about humanity? Or is your mind trapped in the divisions this system imposes on us? My country, my people, or maybe it's just me against the world. And it's not just the America First fascists either. How many times do you hear liberals and progressives talking about our country, our military, our troops? These are not our troops. These are their troops, doing the same thing around the world that the police are doing here, terrorizing and murdering people in the service of the capitalist imperialist system and its ruling class. Our interests are with the people of the world and rising up to overthrow this system and its rulers. And until you realize that, you will be used as a tool of this system and an accomplice to its crimes. Listen to this from Baba Avakian.
You're never going to bring about any kind of fundamental change, and certainly you're not going to bring about a revolution when people are still pledging their allegiance in whatever way to this whole imperialist system, and the dominant imperialists in the world, namely the US, which wreaks tremendous havoc on people all over the world, causing tremendous suffering as well as being the major destroyer of the environment. And unless people break with that, no kind of really positive change, and certainly not any fundamental revolutionary change, can possibly take place,
On this show, we're fighting to break people from American chauvinism and bring forward a revolutionary force of people fighting to free the whole world from this capitalist imperialist system and emancipate all of humanity. We'll be getting into this in many different ways in Season 4. Now, let's look at current events, not from the perspective of ignorant and patriotic Americans, but from the perspective of internationalist revolutionaries.
Turning now to Ukraine.
Tonight, for the first time in this war, Ukrainian soldiers will be sent to be trained on American soil.
May God forever bless the United States of America. Merry Christmas and happy, victorious New Year. Slava Ukraini.
The House has approved a $40 billion aid package for Ukraine.
We want to see Russia weakened.
Russia's annexation of occupied territory in Ukraine.
Armageddon, nuclear Armageddon.
Armageddon, nuclear war.
Это не блеф.
Every day, we're told about how horrible Putin is and the war crimes he's committing, and he is horrible, and the Russian invasion of Ukraine is a crime. But how often do they tell you about the much greater war crimes of the US? This is a country that dropped atomic bombs on 2 Japanese cities, a country that has intervened militarily in Latin America over 100 times. This country has never been and can never be a force for good in the world. But every day they tell you that the US is backing the Ukrainians as part of a worldwide fight for democracy against autocracy. Bullshit. The US is using Ukrainians as pawns and cannon fodder to fight a proxy war against its imperialist rivals. And as horrific as this has been already, we also face a threat of the US and Russia provoking each other into a direct conflict, even nuclear war.
All this ridiculous stuff, people sticking their heads down, or, I stay in my own lane. You think if there's a nuclear war, it won't touch your lane? I mean, come on, let's get fucking serious around here. You think if U.S. and China go to war, your lane is going to be somehow, I'm just going along in my lane. I mean, people need to wake up and get serious. This is a contest between oppressors, the world's leading oppressors, with the U.S. number one. Yes, USA number one oppressor and plunderer in the entire world for decades. It was always terrible that these are the people ruling the world, but it's now acutely posed. We can no longer afford to allow these imperialists to dominate the world and to determine the destiny of humanity. They need to be overthrown as quickly as possible.
Now, let's turn to Iran, where for over 17 weeks, people have heroically stood up against the Islamic Republic's medieval oppression of women with incredible courage, creativity, and determination in the face of this regime's escalating repression, including its barbaric execution of protesters, with whole sections of people now calling for an end to the regime. These are our people in Iran, everyone with a heart. Everyone who believes in freedom and justice should recognize what a great thing it is when people, especially women who have been held down so brutally in Iran, rise up against their oppressors. Everyone has a responsibility to support them. As the Communist Party of Iran, Marxist-Leninist Maoist wrote, "What is unfolding with grandeur and magnificence in the four corners of Iran is not an Iranian event. It is a cry for liberation from oppressed humanity." It is very important that some prominent artists and voices of conscience in the US have spoken out. And it is beautiful to see our comrades in Colombia responding to the Iranians' call to take up the cry of revolution from Iran as your own. But much more of this is needed. Our Colombian comrades are saying, your struggle is our struggle. That's internationalism. But what are most Americans doing? Once again, staying in their own lane. This is bullshit and it needs to change now. Look, given the history, which most people don't even know, of how the US has oppressed Iran, sponsoring a CIA coup in 1953, followed by decades of torture and torment under the Shah, then backing Iraq in a bloody war with Iran in the 1980s, and continuing to threaten and punish the Iranian people with sanctions, those of us living in the US have a special responsibility to stand with the Iranian people and to oppose all moves by the US to intervene and hijack the people's struggle for its own imperialist interests. Lastly, it's extremely important that there is an organization in Iran which has taken up the new communism developed by Baba Vakian and is fighting to lead this uprising to the only solution which can actually emancipate women and end the oppression and exploitation that the masses face, a real revolution. So it's very important for people around the world to learn about and spread the word about the CPI-MLM. Again, internationalism. The whole world comes first, not America first. This is at the core of the new communism brought forward by Baba Vakian. This is what you get every week on the RNL show. Stay tuned for much more on Season 4.